Hello and welcome everyone. It's Suzanne here again with Margaret DeSantos. And we've got something a little bit different today because it's not an Ask a Mentor. It's not your standard webinar, but it's almost like a coffee discussion, which we're doing over the internet because we've heard some rumblings and people have talked to us about various things. Three things, in fact, that we put together in this session and we're going to talk about today. So it's passive-aggressive behaviour at work, and it's out there. It's not always visible, and it's very challenging. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, how you can recognise the early signs, understand maybe the drivers behind it, how do we respond confidently and professionally, and how do we protect our own role. And look, we're coming at this not as HR professionals or psychologists or anybody like that. We are coming at this from a project management perspective. What if this is happening to us, somebody on our team? So it's going to be an interesting discussion. How are you, Margaret? Are you buckled up and ready to go for this one?
Yes, I am, and it's actually freezing outside, so nice and warm as well.
That's right, it is.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous weather, even the second. Yeah. It's amazing how it flicks over from whatever it does to winter, and it's instantly cold, or maybe it's psychological. But however, I've got my Ugg boots on, so I'm ready to go. But we talked a little bit about this the other day when we were doing something else.
Yeah.
That people are talking to us, or we're seeing particular behaviours, and some of those behaviours are somebody wanting to do my job, and we'll explain that a bit more in a second, telling me not to talk to my own subordinate. Now, that's an interesting one that we're going to talk about. And a real passive-aggressive one that I've experienced personally is when somebody keeps calling me Susan after I've told them my name is not Susan and to please call me Suzanne. So we're going to dive into some of these now and just have a bit of a chat about how we found it and what we think we would do about it if we were in a project situation. So the first one, Margaret, I'm going to dive into is the passive-aggressive, the name one, because that literally has happened to me. And look, I don't worry about it if somebody has got English is not their first language and they have trouble saying Suzanne. That is not what I'm talking about. But in this case, it was literally an Anglo-Saxon, woman that looked, like me, white, all the rest of it, well-spoken, well-educated, and she would continue to call me Susan in front of my team members. When I said continually, my name is Suzanne, I appreciate it if you call me that, even having taken her into a room and spoken to her. Now, she was a contractor, so trying to make a big name for herself. Now, we did get that solution done. Things were sorted out. But, Margaret, have you experienced this or have you seen it actually in practice?
I have to say, not the name calling different. Like you said, I think situations where the name might be difficult to pronounce, then it might be a situation where you have never heard of that name before and you might, have troubles actually saying it. Yeah. But Susan or Suzanne, I mean, that's pretty, that's a common name and easy to pronounce. I don't understand why she would have issues or find it difficult to say your name. It's almost like vindictive behaviour.
Well, I think it was because she didn't have any trouble saying my name, not at all, but she was called in as a consultant. And when we first heard what was going on, I said to her, well, hang on, that sounds like what we're doing in our project. So how does that balance out with what we're doing? So I think the conflict was actually set up by my manager. And we've seen this often in projects where the definition of the scope of what people are doing is not clear.
Yes.
And so she had to come in and make a name for herself really fast because she was only there for a month or so. But this was not the way to do it.
I know. I think that sometimes they feel that their position is being threatened,
Yes.
or that they don't have, I don't know, position to be able to do the work.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say that, and I've said this from the start, and I think this was one of the first webinars that we did, was about the RACI and roles and
Yes.
responsibilities. I think once you set that up and make it clear, it's very difficult then, and it should be challenging for that person then to be doing your work.
Yeah.
And I have had that situation before where someone else wants to do my work.
Right. That's another thing we're going to talk about. Yes. Okay. Tell us
Yes.
about that, Margaret.
So I had the situation where there was a change manager, and there was me. I was the IT project manager,
Mm.
and there was a technology item that was discussed without me being present. So I was
Right.
excluded from the conversation. Now that shouldn't happen, because when you're the IT project manager, any technology discussion should be
Yeah.
by the person that's running the technology side.
Or yeah, and sometimes on a big program that could be the enterprise architect or the senior
That's right.
technical lead. That's all fine. We're
That's
not
right.
saying that we have to be in every meeting. That's not what
That's
you're
right.
saying, Margaret.
That's right. When it's
Mm.
very technical, that's right. And
Yeah.
it's going, basically a very technical issue needs to be discussed, or, needs to be fixed, then yes, the enterprise architect, the solutions
Mm.
architect then needs to be involved to rectify the decision, or
Yes.
make it good, come good. But this wasn't the case. This was a case where the change manager was discussing technology type items that needed to be done, work items, that is
Right.
project work items,
Yes.
and with the actual team. And he wasn't including me in the discussion when he was the change manager.
No, that's
Yeah.
not right.
Yeah, I know. So I have
Mm.
had that happen before. So in terms of name calling, Susan instead of, or Suzanne instead of Susan, I think there's no reason why that person should be doing that. It's like they're trying to get a one-upmanship on you to
Exactly.
try and say, well, I'm just going to call you what I want because,
Yeah.
I'm the manager, or I'm this sort of
Yes.
position or
Whatever.
this title.
Which is I'm the absolute wrong person to be doing that too.
Yes.
But and I know you probably know this because we've talked about it before, but what actually happened in that situation was that in a meeting one day with all the team, and I wasn't actually the project manager, but with all the team there, she was on the screen, she wasn't in the room, and she said, and Susan, blah, 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 blah. And everybody looked at me, and I said, Suzanne, it's Suzanne, if you're talking about me. And then she instantly again said, and Susan, and my team members actually went, oh, no, 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 no. And they put their foot down, and she was completely shocked. But I'm able to do that. And we've talked about this before, where I've got that personality and you've got the experience, we've got that sort of experience that we can go, hang on, no, this is not going to work.
Mm.
But for some people, they don't. So if we find that's happening on our project to somebody, what are we going to do? I mean, I would often go to HR if I can't sort it out myself. What sort of things, Margaret, do you think we can do as project managers or mentors even?
Yeah, after, if she said that openly in front of everybody and you've said it, 3 or 4 times, then I
Yes.
would actually then have a one-on-one conversation saying to her that
Yep.
my name is Suzanne, it's not
Yeah.
Susan, and I'd appreciate it if you call me Suzanne,
Yeah.
not Susan. And I don't know what her name is, but I would give an example to say, how would you like it, so that she
Yeah.
can feel empathetic. If I called you something else and not your real
Yeah.
name, how would
Like
you feel?
Bob.
How would
Yeah.
you like that? And
Yeah.
so if then she continues to say Susan instead of Suzanne, then I think I would escalate it to either her manager or HR.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, what she actually did, because I'd already had that discussion with her separately, but
Oh,
what she actually did was she was stupid enough to do it in front of my manager and her manager at that meeting after she'd been told by me in the meeting. So for people, if we're the project managers and we're seeing that behaviour happening for one of our subordinates, then we need to sort of step in and see if we can assist in one way or another without poking our nose in and making people uncomfortable. And again, you know, like I say, I will go to HR because I'm not the expert in that field and take their guidance. And sometimes they will have a word or they will go to the manager or whatever. I will usually escalate this sort of behaviour to my manager because it's like a risk to my project, you know.
It absolutely is. It's like they're, you know, purposefully being vindictive or trying to derail the project. Disruptive.
Yes. I call those intangible risks. They're things that you can't sort of easily put your finger on. It's not like if we don't implement this software, then, you know, this is going to fall to pieces or whatever. That's more tangible. But some of these things are behaviourally, they're intangible. So they're a little bit hard to define. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a go at it as a project manager. But you just have to be a bit sensitive. So you alluded to the doing my job one and talked about that. And I found that this is a really common thing. It's so common.
It is so common. I've had it a few times in my career and both times have not been pleasant. But the time when that change manager was basically stepping in and doing my role, I said to him, that's my job. Why are you doing that? And he didn't have an answer. I think because it was a time zone difference and he was in the same time, he was based in the US and it was a US customer. So he found it easier to just talk to the customer on technology, but not brief me on it. So regardless
it's disrespectful.
of that, very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. So I said to him, that's my job and I should be the one talking to, you know, the customer, not yourself on this technology item. So I made it pretty clear, and you've got to actually call it out, because if you harbor it and don't say anything, then it will just continue and it'll just get worse later. So you've got to call it out and say, you've got to say it. That's what I did. I called it out and I said, that's my role. You shouldn't be doing that, or I should be included in the discussion, you know. And then, because if you don't say anything and you let it ride, it'll just continue and it'll just get worse, and it's harder to rectify later.
Yep, exactly. And you alluded to this before about the racy, because as most people will know if they're watching, and if you're watching, please subscribe to the channel. On projects, we don't have position descriptions, generally speaking. I've certainly had it on big projects that span a couple of years, but we generally don't have. We might have something that says, what does a solution architect look like? What does this look like? What does that look like? But each person doesn't generally get a job description. They get a title. But the way to sort that out is the RACI, which you talked about, Margaret. So in that example that you gave, was it clear enough in the RACI that you could go to your manager and say, look, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this person's doing it. What do you want to do? Do you want to change the RACI? What do you want to do? But clearly it's here, and that's what's been agreed.
That's right. I mean, and he knew that, and that's why he didn't have a comeback, because he was appointed the change manager.
Right.
And I was appointed the IT project manager for this particular project. So there was no comeback on it.
Yeah.
He just did the wrong thing. So there's nothing, you need to call it out, and there's nothing really to basically keep quiet. If you keep quiet, it's just going to make it worse, like I said. So there's no reason why he should have done that. It was, I think, purely because he found it easier, like I said, because of the time zone challenge, and that's why he was just probably talking to the customer himself and found it easier just to discuss the technology, you know, items, but you know, to be honest, I should have been included in that.
Exactly. But, you know, I think you're being so kind, really, because in my experience, what's happened is that because of the sort of projects that I do, I tend to get quite a high profile in the organisation. So I tend to be able to speak to the CEO and whoever I need to talk to, because I'm recovering a project or it's, you know, of such value that I'm reporting directly to the CEO. So what tends to happen is that's seen as something quite glamorous. It's not necessarily glamorous, and I'm not saying it is glamorous, but other people on the sidelines say, oh, gee, that looks good. I want a piece of that. Now, I've had experience with my manager who had only recently been put into the role, starting to do my job as the program manager transformation. And I was just really planning the whole thing. And he was really supposed to be doing corporate services. And at one point, after telling him numerous times, really, if you don't think I'm doing the job, I don't need to be here. No, that's fine. And eventually I said to him, well, look, how about this? I'll do your job, Director of Corporate Services. You do mine, Director of Program, Transformation, Business Transformation. That's fine. I don't care. I can do either one.
What did he say to that?
Well, he looked at me a bit strangely. And in this case, he was white-anting me a little bit. Right, so he was going behind my back doing stuff, which was mad because he'd hired me, so it made him look bad, which he didn't realise, I don't think. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go directly to the CEO and just said, well, do you know what's actually going on here? Like, do you have got something else for me to do, because this is a waste of my time. You know, I'm getting paid all this money and it's really a waste of my time. I can do it, but it's ridiculous, right? Because, again, it's a risk to the business transformation program progressing, because you've got somebody like on that pulling and pushing, so it doesn't work. Anyway, this person actually got the sack, so that was the end of them. But you've got to speak up, as you say. You've got to make it known to your manager. You've got to go back to, if you've got a position description, which I did have at that time, say, well, what's going on? And I said to this person, I'm now going to escalate this over your head. I know you're my manager, but I'm actually going to escalate it over your head. Right, I'm just giving you fair warning. Which we don't normally do, right? We all try and work on this stuff. But I had another example where I had a person on my team who kept undermining me and going to meetings that I should have been in, like you're saying, Margaret.
Yeah.
But it didn't end very well. It actually ended very, very badly for myself and another 6 people. We were all put off on stress leave, and this person went mental and did all of this stuff, and it was the golden person as seen by my manager. Absolutely golden person. And if you're watching out there, no, I haven't signed NDAs on this, so I'm actually able to speak on these things, but I won't mention what organisations. But this literally did happen. Now, eventually this person was found out to be running their own business in the business.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so they got shafted, and the 6 of us all, were in quite a mess, because, again, this person went off and told stories about each of us, undermined us, and these were my team members as well. And I was a program director.
So to me, that's just a conflict of interest where they're running their own business and trying to, get work to basically prop up their revenue, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But on the other one, where this guy was a director of corporate services, it sounds to me like he actually really wanted to do your job, but he didn't have the expertise. But he didn't have the expertise.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
then you're actually doing the work.
Yeah.
He's parading probably around with the title, thinking that he is the director of project and program management.
Yeah.
Without the expertise,
Yeah.
But then if something bad happens, you'll be blamed for it because that's why you were hired
Exactly.
to do that role.
Yeah, exactly. And look,
So,
as a consultant in my previous life, we would get often hired to do something, and I would say to my clients, "I'm here to make you look good. I don't have to have the glory. I'm here to make you look good." But making you look good involves me doing my job and making sure that you can do your job. But this guy just didn't want to play. So what we're saying, Margaret and I are saying, people, if you're listening out there, is this is far more common than you would think. It's insidious, and it starts to get you thinking, have I done something wrong? Am I not doing my job? It's a very
yeah.
nasty one. And like I said, we are not here as experts in that sort of behaviour and how to manage it. Go to your HR people, ask them for their guidance, raise it as a risk to your manager, and seek counselling yourself. You know, a lot of places have got counselling that you can go to for free. Seek that counselling because that really helps. So there are things that you can do, okay? Did you want to add any more to that one, Margaret, before we move on?
No, I think we've talked about it, and I think the reasons why people do that is because they feel insecure in their own position,
Yeah,
or they really want to do a particular role, but they don't have the expertise, like we
yeah,
mentioned, or they feel insecure in their own self. They feel like they're not worthy, they don't have the self-confidence,
yeah.
and so they try and do all these undermining things
It's
behind the back.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've sort of now just talked a little bit about and highlighted the recognizing the early signs, and things can move forward and be quite insidious. So you do need to respond confidently but professionally. You may not always understand the underlying drivers. That may come later or may not come at all, but that's okay. But you need to really protect your own role and your reputation and your project outcomes if you're, in charge of the project. Now, the next one that we're going to talk about is the funny one that somebody actually said to me the other week, only about 2 weeks ago. Their daughter, who was a manager, was told by their manager, who was a senior manager, not to speak to the manager's subordinate. So this woman was not supposed to speak to her own subordinate because the subordinate had got upset by something. Now, you wouldn't think that this would actually happen, but it does. It happens, again, more often than not. And we've put this into this passive-aggressive sort of harassment, bullying situation because it sort of takes away from that manager's autonomy and role.
That's right. And just before, when we were just speaking about, the different items that we were going to talk about, I
Yeah.
mean, this manager who's got this subordinate has obviously objectives with the subordinate, and they've got to go through the objectives
Yes.
and basically do a performance review. So how is it that this manager's manager, the senior manager, is telling them that they can't speak to the subordinate? How are they going to do a performance review? How are they going to
Yeah.
be able to provide guidance, delegate work, basically give them autonomy to do anything that they're meant to do, and then do a
Achieve
performance
their
appraisal,
objectives. Yeah.
achieve their objectives. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got to be aligned to your objectives as well.
Exactly.
So how on earth this person is going to not be able to talk to the subordinate, I have no idea.
No.
That's just insane.
It's completely insane. And I said to this lady, whose daughter it was, it sounds to me like that senior manager just doesn't have the skills involved and required to manage the situation. So they're taking the easy way out. There's also a few other things that could have been happening around it, but at the moment we'll just talk a little bit about that. And as a project manager, we quite often find that our sponsors don't have the skills required to get the project underway, and we have to educate them in what's required. So, Margaret, what do you think with this one? Roles and responsibilities, take the racy to them again. How do you think you'd attack it?
So, I mean, this is not necessarily a project. It seems like it might be just within the organisation.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if this person, this subordinate, doesn't want to talk to their manager for some reason, then I would have the manager talk to them in a three-way conversation. So it might be that a HR representative is in the room,
Yes. Yeah.
or that the senior manager is in the room, so that you've got a witness, but you've got to be able to thrash it out. I mean, why is it that this person can't talk to?
Nuts.
It's very much nuts because,
Yeah.
like I said, the manager does need to talk to them about, giving them the review, delegating work. They've got to basically work with the team. They need to be a team player, so they need to be able to talk to everybody, including you as the manager. So I don't understand why a senior manager would say to a manager that they can't talk to their subordinate.
Yeah, unless there's some other nasty sort of situation that's occurring, or something out of left field. Maybe really observing, if you see those two people together, there might be something else going on, potentially an affair does happen. That a senior manager is having an affair with somebody in the organisation, and it may be your subordinate. It may be that that subordinate wants your job, and this is one way of getting you out of your job, because, of course, as you talked about, Margaret, it will be affecting your deliverables, your KPIs, if you can't instruct that subordinate. The whole thing's crazy, but it's literally happening.
Yeah, there's something else. I think if that's the case, if I knew that, and I was the manager, I would definitely go to HR.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
That person, I think in organizations, you can't have someone that you're either dating or if you're engaged to the person or getting married to a person, be under you in terms of a subordinate, because it's two levels down, but it's still within your line of reporting line. I think it's almost like a conflict of interest. You can't have that person actually working under you, and that person might have to move roles, or the senior manager might have to move roles. Something like that, if there is something like that going on.
So, we've talked about these 3 examples today, and we've been going for about half an hour, I think. But if you're out there watching, there are challenges in every workplace. There are obviously challenges, for all of us in the workplace. But as project managers, again, going back to what we say all the time, we do have tools and techniques, even if we're not in a project, as you talked about before, Margaret. Even if we're outside of that project and we're doing some other role completely, which often a lot of us have to do, we can still fall back on some of those things. And some of the really important things are about having clarity as a project manager, really having the clarity on, well, what is my job? Where does it say what my job is? Is that correct? Let's maybe... And sometimes jobs aren't, PDs aren't reviewed for years, and they change.
Yeah. So with project roles, because it is temporary and it's within that particular, whatever you're delivering, then usually the title and what that person is meant to be doing is either included in the business case or the RACI, or like roles and responsibilities document.
Yeah. Exactly. But if you're outside of the project, and I've done this in the past. I've asked for my position description if I don't have one. Sometimes there's not one. Sometimes there is one that is not up to date. If you find in the government they're always up to date, but in other places they're not always. Go to HR, ask them if they can refresh your PD, and let's re-agree everything. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult, but as we've said, we've seen a couple of quite nasty behaviours in this conversation. Passive aggressiveness of, and we gave the example of not calling someone by the right name, but it could be something else. It could be anything to do, but it's too personal. Somebody else wanting to do your job for whatever reason, and that may be a whole raft of reasons. Telling someone not to speak to their own subordinate really does take the cake for me, I must say. I've often been told I can't talk to this person or that person when I'm in project land because my sponsor doesn't think that they're the right sort of person, or they're the wrong stakeholder, or they're going to be upset, or, and you just have to think about it. Are they really the wrong person, or they're the right person? If they're the right person, then you've really got to do something about it. Protecting your role and your reputation. So the role maybe you can't protect. I think we have to say that. Sometimes it's better to move on and go somewhere else. But your reputation, escape with your dignity sometimes, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. And
It's
if you're a
difficult.
contractor in an organization, well, you might want to quit,
Yeah,
especially if, the situation makes it untenable for you to work there.
yeah,
So yeah, there's different ways. I mean, you want to hopefully resolve it internally first with HR, with the manager,
exactly. Yeah,
and then
yeah. But look, and also if HR is not readily available, and you have a change manager on your team, which I've often had, mostly I've had a change manager, I'll go and talk to them and get them to
yeah,
help because they've got very similar skills. So there'll be people around that you can ask for help. There's always people that you can reach out to. There's mentors like us here at the Project Manager Clinic. There's often people within your own organisation that you can reach out to. And if it's project management stuff that you need, join something like the PMI or the AIPM or some sort of group that gives you that information about how you can tackle some of these things, areas that are unclear, even though there's passive aggressive behaviour involved. It's like you got to put your own armour on, and protect yourself. So leave with your reputation intact, and sometimes that means some hard decisions. So any other key pointers, Margaret, before we sign off?
I think that's pretty much, sums it up. I think, don't leave it months and months festering.
Yeah.
Address it early, seek help.
Yeah.
Opt out if it's, you can, and if it can't be addressed, if, the situation just seems a bit silly.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I mean, I don't really have any other things to add to it.
Don't put yourself through it. I used to say to my people when I had my company, the thing is you've got to recognise the game that's being played. You don't have to play that game. You can choose to walk away from it. And as the managing director, I would support them in that. And there were a couple of times where we did walk away, or I put another person in, whatever, because it's not worth it, to go through all of that sort of stress. So if you're out there, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. We love doing all of this. And this is Margaret's going into her second year now of doing all this. Wow, fantastic. So if you are struggling, reach out to us. Details are in the description below. And you can too have a fantastic coach or mentor like Margaret to help you through. If you have got a pressing project management question you just don't know the answer to, please go to the website, ask a mentor question. Form is there and you can fill it out. You can be completely anonymous and we will address that question. Other than that, have a fantastic project day. Thanks again, Margaret.
Thanks, Suzanne. It was fantastic, as always.